What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be giving my way too early SEC predictions. I'm going to be predicting where each SEC team will be ranked at the end of the next season. The start of next season will be the start of conference realignment, and Texas and Oklahoma will be joining the SEC, so I will be ranking them as well. But before I do get into this video, let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel because we post daily college football content and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's get into the video. At number 16, I have Vanderbilt. I think everybody can agree that Vanderbilt will be the worst team in the SEC next year. And I mean, they're Vanderbilt, nothing much to say about Vanderbilt. I honestly don't know anything good I could say about Vanderbilt. They've been bad in the SEC for a while. At number 15, I have Arkansas. Arkansas really struggled to win games this year, and they only managed to win one game in the SEC this past year, and I don't expect it to be much different. It will be a tough year for Arkansas with Texas and Oklahoma joining, and Arkansas also lost their quarterback KJ Jefferson. Arkansas will be okay, but not good enough to compete in the SEC. And I could be wrong, but this is why these predictions are way too early. But if you're being realistic, then Arkansas should be one of the worst teams in the SEC next season. Now at number 14, I have Mississippi State. Mississippi State is going to be in complete rebuild mode next year with a new head coach, and maybe down the line they're able to crack like the top 8 in the SEC or even higher, but if we're looking at it now, they could end up being worse than Arkansas. They haven't really made any big moves in the transfer portal other than picking up a bunch of 3-stars, and that won't cut it against SEC competition. And Mississippi State also lost their quarterback Will Rogers, so it's going to be a very tough year for Mississippi State next season. The teams ranked 14 through 16 in the SEC are kind of in their own tier, and I don't see any of them doing anything big next season, but honestly the next 13 teams I'm about to rank could really make an impact and shock people. And at number 13, I have South Carolina. Like I said, I do expect South Carolina to be a big step ahead of the teams ranked below them, and South Carolina is a team that could end up doing better than people expect, but I still think SEC competition will be too much for them. But they have done a pretty decent job in the transfer portal, and they have the third best transfer portal group in the SEC, and they brought in some players who could play an impact. But overall, I expect the South Carolina team to be pretty bad. They are losing quarterback Spencer Rattler to the NFL draft, and they also lost one of their good receivers to the transfer portal. Maybe you could say South Carolina will be just as bad as Arkansas or Mississippi State, but I do think they have a bit more upside than those teams. But South Carolina will not be good next year. But at number 12, I actually have Kentucky. But I really thought this over, and some people may not agree with me for having Kentucky this low, but I still think they will be decent. But I think the teams above them have a lot more positives going forward for them. I think Kentucky will be average next year. They've done all right in the transfer portal. They picked up quarterback Brock Vandagriff from Georgia. But all around, I'm just not very impressed. And they had a decent season this year, but it will get tougher next year. And I'm just not high on this team. And I actually have Florida at number 11. I know a lot of people won't agree with me to put Florida higher than Kentucky, but I like what Florida has done with the recruiting the past 2 years. And I think they will be a little bit better next year. Now, I know Florida is losing some key players like star running back Trevor Etienne, and they lost one of their top edge rushers, but they've had back-to-back decent recruiting classes, and this year they picked up quarterback DJ Lagway, who was one of the best players in the upcoming recruiting class, and he probably won't be a day one starter, because they have a really good quarterback in Graham Mertz returning for his last season, but they also brought in a 5-star edge rusher who will play a factor right away, and I really like this Florida team. They won't be great, but they will be decent, and I actually think they will be better than Kentucky. And Florida has a bright future. But at number 10, another team people might not have this high, but I have Auburn. Like I said, I'm not trying to disrespect Kentucky, but I see Auburn and Florida being better next season. Both Auburn and Florida's futures are looking bright, but I have Auburn at 10 because they have a lot of returning talent. They have also got the 7th best recruiting class in the country, and they brought in tons of talent to help them out. I still think they have a lot more improving to do to get near the top of the SEC, but there's potential. They have a good head coach. They were just too inconsistent this year. They would go from losing to New Mexico State to almost beating Alabama. They had a pretty decent defense this year, and I expect them to be even better next year. But for my top 9, all of these teams will be 12-team playoff contenders, and all of them are top 25 caliber teams. But at number 9, I have Oklahoma. This could change when I do these predictions again in the preseason, but I do think this team will be good. But it's going to be a tough first year in the SEC. I really like the head coach Oklahoma has, but they lost a lot of their offensive line, and they lost Dylan Gabriel. They have Jackson Arnold next up at quarterback, but he's going to have to show a lot of improvement this next season. Oklahoma will definitely still be good, and they will be a 12-team playoff contender, but I don't think they will be good enough to compete near the top of the SEC. They could prove me wrong, but they lost a lot of talent this year. I think they do have a bright future, but next year will be a tough first year for them in the SEC. But the SEC is really going to be stacked, and I could completely be wrong, but this is just my opinion. But at number 8, I have Tennessee. I really like the quarterback this team has going forward. I think they will be a little bit better than Oklahoma, and they could be a dark horse, because we don't truly know how good this team will be. But they have potential to be very good. They have a very underrated defense, and I personally think they brought in an underrated transfer portal group, and they picked up a very good tight end, and this team really speaks potential. Just imagine this team with the offense they had 2 seasons ago, and the defense they have right now. That would make them very dangerous. But unfortunately, their offense has fell off. But I do think we will see some improvements from that offense next season. And they could end up being even in the top 6 or top 5. But realistically, I'd say they are the 8th best team in the SEC for now. But they will still be a top 25 team. And we all got to remember, the SEC is going to be stacked. But here we go. At number 7, I have Texas A&M. And this is really brave of me for putting them this high. And it could set up for people laughing at me in the comments. And I don't blame you, because it's Texas A&M. They're overrated every season. But personally, I think Mike Elko is a very underrated head coach, and he did a really good job building Duke up when Duke was never relevant in football. And right now, Texas A&M has the 2nd best transfer portal group coming in, and they are making big moves in the offseason. And this year, they honestly weren't that bad. They were pretty impressive this season, and actually won 8 games, which was better than usual. And they were very competitive in all their games. Texas A&M really lost a lot to the portal as well, so that's not good. But I think we are going to see a decent season from Texas A&M next year. This was probably my boldest take of the video, but I like to mix it up a little bit, and I actually think Texas A&M will be the 7th best team in the SEC. Nothing crazy, but I think they will be better than people expect. At number 6, I have LSU. Yes, they lost a lot of offensive talent, including their Heisman winner quarterback Jaden Daniels, but they have an amazing coaching staff from top to bottom, and I expect the defense to be a lot better next year. Brian Kelly should be taken serious, because he's a very dangerous coach. It could honestly shock a lot of people with how good this team could possibly be. But I think they'll be fine on the offensive side. They should have a decent quarterback next year, because Garrett did pretty good against Wisconsin in the bowl game. And they picked up a couple decent receivers for next season as well. And like I said, the defense should be better, and I expect them to compete near the top of the SEC. But for these final 5 teams, I'd say they all have legitimate shots to represent the SEC in the SEC championship next season, starting with Missouri at number 5. If I could, I would put this team higher, but the teams above them are going to be stacked. But Missouri has a lot of recruiting talent and an amazing head coach, and they are a team on the rise with a lot of momentum heading into next season. And we could definitely see a world where Missouri makes the 12-team playoffs next year. They are losing running back Cody Schrader, but they are returning most of their offensive talent, and running back is always one of the easiest positions to replace in college football. But it would be stupid to leave this team out of the top 5 after the season that they just put together. They have a lot of positives going for them. And maybe that win against Ohio State isn't as impressive because Ohio State had a lot of guys opt out on offense, but it was still a good win to get momentum going into the next season. And they also have a very good defense, so I expect this team to be all around good next year and compete near the top. And this team should definitely be taken seriously. But at number 4, I have Ole Miss. Similar to Missouri, Ole Miss has a great head coach. And Lane Kiffin has a personality, let me tell you that. But this Ole Miss offense was one of the better offenses in the country this year, and they did lose their best running back. But they do also have decent receivers returning. They have quarterback Jackson Dart returning as well, and this Ole Miss offense should be just as good as they were this past season. But the reason this team is going to be a legit dangerous contender in the SEC is because of the success that they've had in the transfer portal. Nobody even comes close to this team. They picked up the highest rated player in the transfer portal, 5-star defensive lineman Walter Nolan, and they picked up 2 4-star edge rushers who will fill huge roles on this defense. And they also brought in a bunch of other players on defense. The list is really long, and really the ceiling for this team is an SEC championship, and possibly even a national championship. That's how much potential this team has. And they've been getting drastically better every year with Lane Kiffin leading the way. All I'm saying is watch out for Ole Miss, because even after the decent season they had this year, they still happen to bring in a lot more talent, and I expect them to be better on the defensive side. And defense wins championships. And I'm not saying they're going to win the SEC or win a national championship, but that is the ceiling, and you never know. But at number 3, I have Alabama, and to the people who think Alabama is going to completely fall off and not even compete near the top of the SEC, then let me tell you straight up that you're probably wrong. I don't think they will be the best team in the SEC, but the ceiling is still a national championship, and they are still Alabama. And Kalen DeBoer is a winner, and I have faith in Kalen DeBoer to lead this Alabama team. Maybe Alabama does fall off a little bit and doesn't win a national championship the next 5 years, but they will definitely win 9 games plus consistently. And that's honestly just the floor, because the ceiling of Alabama football with Kalen DeBoer will still be a national championship. Kalen DeBoer is 104-12, and he's a winner. So no, Alabama isn't going to be 5-7 or 6-6 or 7-5. They will win 9 games minimum. They lost some talent, but they have Jalen Milroe returning, and they are still loaded with 5 stars on the team. So watch out for Alabama. But at number 2, I have Texas. They're going to be completely loaded with talent next year, and I think they will be just fine playing SEC competition. They already proved that they can beat the best when they beat Bama by double digits on the road. But not only that, they picked up 5-star receiver Isaiah Bond from Alabama, and they have Quinn Ewers returning. And they have everything going for them. This team will be a legit national title contender next year, and I can't wait to see what's in store for Texas football. But at number 1, it's pretty simple. I have Georgia. Georgia will most likely be the number 1 team to start the season in the country next year. Kirby Smart continues to build a dynasty at Georgia. They dominate recruiting every year, and they completely dominated recruiting this year. Nobody even comes close to them. But they also have a lot of returning talent, including Carson Beck. And I could basically say Georgia is a lock for the 12-team playoffs. And they're going to be a very scary team in every aspect of the game next season. But anyways, that's going to do it for my SEC power rankings. It's going to be interesting to see different matchups in the SEC. Like that game between Texas and Georgia should be fantastic. The start of next season is unfortunately 7 months away, but that's why I'm here to post daily college football videos for you guys. So make sure you like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. But be sure to tune in for my Big Ten power rankings that should be out tomorrow. But that's going to do it, guys, and peace out.